All right, YouTube, there's a link in the description to a very concerning article. The USGS has issued a quake warning for Oklahoma, preparedness essentially for a 5.0 plus quake in the area. What this claims is that this is the first time that an inland state has had such an warning issued, which is historical itself. The USGS is known for restraint. It's known for optimism. It's also known for criticizing anyone saying that a major event's about to occur as some sort of conspiracy theorist. So when the USGS comes out and says, yes, there will be a 5.0 plus quake here fairly soon because the tremors are continuing to increase exponentially, I'm going to assume that it's going to be somewhat larger than that, to massively larger than that, and this will be some sort of New Madrid situation, and they'll just keep cracking away these seismic events, and the entire area will, fall into the earth or something. There's a graph in this link, it's to Huffington Post, that shows the number of 3.0 plus quakes in this general region in Oklahoma over the years from 1978 to the present. And if you look, it's basically nothing until 2009, then you have 20, and then it continues to increase, and now for 2014, there are more quakes so far in 2014 of significant magnitude than there were in all of 2013, and 2013 was the highest activity year previous to 2014. So you see a major increase. I think they're getting worried because you've got so many quakes going on. If this were happening in California, with this many 3.0 quakes happening in a small area, they would start to get concerned there as well. It's foreshock activity or whatever you want to call it. But the USGS is known for underestimating events. And rarely issuing warnings even where they are warranted, and they should know that something's going on. So when they do issue a warning, people should take that with grave concern and assume that they are right, and assume that they are possibly, very likely, I would say, underestimating the potential size of such an event. If we're looking at a 5.0, the last time they had a 5.0 plus quake in this area, it says 14 homes were destroyed and 2 people were injured. Doesn't sound like a lot, although you come to think this is an inland area. This isn't the Ring of Fire. This is Oklahoma, where previous to, look at the graph here, previous to 2009, there were basically no earthquakes of substantial size. So all of a sudden, in the last half a decade, you have this severe increase. I would think that the foundations of buildings there, because of all these brick buildings, more brick and mortar essentially built in the 1800s and early 1900s, I would think they're already probably developing problems with their infrastructure there. I remember when I was living in Woodstock, not where the concert was held, by the way, Woodstock, Vermont. When I was living there, we were living in a 3-story brick apartment building. And there was a 3.0 earthquake 100 miles away, and the entire building was shaking, and cracks did appear in the walls at the time, and it was quite concerning for everyone living in that building. It wasn't particularly well built, hadn't been retrofitted at all, but there was a quake up in Montreal, and we could feel it all the way down in Woodstock. And it was quite severe shaking. It felt quite powerful. The entire building was swaying back and forth, actually. We were actually worried we were going to have it fall in and get buried alive and die. So there might not be any Styx Hexenhammer videos if that had happened. But the USGS is not by any means an alarmist group. They're about the most optimistic people that are watching seismic events worldwide. They almost never issue warnings of any kind, and all of a sudden they're issuing one for essentially Oklahoma City of all places. This is right next to Oklahoma City, an enormous metropolitan area, the largest city in Oklahoma, obviously, but also a fairly large city anyway, with several 100,000 people living in it. If a 5.0 hits, it might not do significant damage, but what if they underestimate it and it's a 7.5? Or a 9.0? What if this is like the San Francisco quake? You won't have 2 stones left standing on top of one another. People living in some of these old apartment buildings may seriously want to think about not showing up at their apartments for some time. When you look at the number of quakes here that are charted here for 2014 as of May 2nd, so it's not counting the last week's results, you're looking at almost a 3.0 a day in this region. of literally almost exactly one 3.0 quake every single day. If this were happening in any other inland area, people would already have moved out, most likely. Of course, you can't move everyone out of a city as large as Oklahoma City. I've actually been through there. It's an alright city. It has some severe problems and looks a little bit shaky to me. And it's going to look a lot more shaky if this event happens. But I would say the USGS, being as optimistic as they are, is probably underestimating the threat. Giving a vague, well, it's going to happen in the future. We're not sure when. It could happen a year from now or a month from now or something. Probably pretty soon. Again, because if this were happening anywhere else in the world, they'd be calling it foreshock activity, and they would say a big one's about to hit, another Fukushima or something. So people around there should be pretty concerned right now. They're talking on this article, by the way. This is the green section of Huffington Post that deals with the environment and earth science and stuff. So naturally, they're mentioning fracking and hydraulic injection and so forth. I'm agnostic on the topic of fracking causing seismic activity. I choose to believe that the science is not in to say one way or the other, because some people say, well, yes, it causes it, and here's some studies. And some people say, no, it has no effect, and they show studies as well. I don't know. I don't care particularly about the issue, but what is clear here is that there are quakes happening. Their uptick seems to predate fracking in this area, so again, it could have already been destabilizing years ago, and fracking is either making it worse or having no effect, and you wouldn't really have a way of knowing this. But people in Oklahoma City and elsewhere in that region should probably be on alert right now, because when the USGS of all places is saying something's about to happen, they're underestimating it. I would say probably give a guess you're looking at more of a 6.0 plus event, which would cause significant damage to a city like Oklahoma City. The structures there simply are not built for seismic activity because most of them, again, predate 2009, back when this area was not particularly active. A few small quakes a year. They weren't concerned about it. All of a sudden, you have this uptick. Very few of the buildings in that area that would be quake prone anyway were built after this period. You're looking at apartments dating to the 1800s in most cases. The very dangerous recipe for a bad situation becoming far worse, simply because this area doesn't happen to be used to this size of a quake. Whereas in California, if a 5.0 hits, nobody notices, a few things get damaged, everyone sort of moves on. And they watch their swimming pool wobble back and forth, and they feel the vibration. They sit down in their chair and get a free massage. Oklahoma is not like that. Just as if a 5.0 quake were to hit here in Vermont, people would be fleeing into the streets saying that Armageddon was here, because we're not used to it. And the buildings, frankly, are not built to withstand a 5.0. They're not even built to withstand a 4.0 up here. I don't know about Oklahoma. So people should be on alert.